Welcome back into the shop. I've always been intrigued by making a round table with an X-style base. To make the base look uniform from each side, you have to do some unusual things to it. So check out later on in the video and I'll show you how I did it. I'll start by breaking the wood down, but to reduce waste, I won't cut all the pieces at the same length. Another really important step in getting a perfectly flat top and one that stays flat over time is to orient the grains up and down, because who needs a tabletop that looks like a potato chip in a couple of years? I hit the planer next to get everything to one thickness, and then the jointer to get a tight glue line. Now this may look a little on the weird side, but it's worth all the weirdness to avoid any issues. Before I cut my dominoes, I do a mock circle outline with this piece of scrap steel and some double-sided tape and a pencil tape to it. I measure the center of the board, put a nail in, and do the mock circle so I know where to mark for my domino slots. Because you know what's going to happen if I don't, one's going to pop through in the end. To make it easy to handle, I decided to glue the top into two pieces, plus I have a perfect spot right on my floor to do the final glue up. Now into milling down the wood for the base. It's all the same as the top. Once the clamps are all off the base, I find it easier just to run it through the bandsaw to clean the glue up off the edges. This right here has to be where the toughest part of the project starts, planning out the base. I start by doing some half laps for it. Since my base is going to be 26 inches tall and the top itself is around 50 inches, I wanted to make sure that when I cut the half laps, that it allowed the base to be wide enough to hold the big top. Not every shop has one of these, but at one time this was just a cut-off sled for my table saw. Then I turned it into a dedicated dado sled, which made doing this procedure super easy. Onto the actual angle that I need for the base, I used this poster paper first to match up the width of my wood. Then for the perfect angle, I know that my bench is square and straight, so I used the edge of it to mark the angle for the bottom. Then I measured up to 26 inches, which is the overall height of the base, to mark the top angle. And just like that, X marks the spot. I transfer all the marks over to the oak base to make the X. For this base, I'm going to cut a large chunk out of one of them, the width of the base. If I didn't do this step, one side would look uniform and then the other one would look off by the thickness of the leg. It's a bit tedious to lay out the dominoes for the base, but once you get it down, it's really easy to cut them. But you could really use dowels, screws, and then fill the holes with plugs, or maybe some fancy joints. Needless to say, the glue up was a little on the rough side, so I edited out the curse words and the possible throwing of some of the clamps to show you that it actually did get glued together. After all this craziness of the glue up took place, it's time to use my nifty router jig and cut the top into a circle. Before I cut the circle fully, I want to cut some grooves to add some C-channel to this when I'm done. The C-channel is very heavy and adds a lot of extra weight to the top, but along with the grain orientation I did earlier on in the video, this will help over time to keep it flat. Once the grooves are all cut for the C-channel, I use my jigsaw and then a flush trim bit to finish off the top. I'll only sand the top to 150 grit because of what I'm going to finish it with. This is the first project I've ever used Rubio Monocoat as a finish. It's really important to follow all the steps when you're using this product to get the perfect finish, and I have to make sure that there's no dust on the top at all, or else the finish will not adhere to the oak. A little bit of this goes a long way, so I drizzle some on and use this Scotch-Brite pad in a circular motion. Then after this is on, I wait about 20 minutes and buff it out with a clean cloth. For the base, I'm doing something different as well too. How about India ink? This actually gives the oak kind of a matte looking metal finish. I had to do about 5 coats of the India ink on the base, which sounds like a lot, but to get into those deep grooves on the oak, it had to be done. To wrap up the project, I added the C-channel, and then some adjustable feet, and some figure-8 fasteners for the top.